I thought I'd show my process a little bit about how I utilize the 3D models that I found for Procreate for tattoo designing to make sure that it flows throughout the whole arm. After downloading the files, you can access them through the import button in Procreate. You can look through them and see that there's like a lot of different versions of the body models. You can access the arms, the legs, a foot. For this one, I'm going to be using the right arm of a female. It'll upload like this, and you can move it around, see every part of the arm. But when you first start drawing on this with just a pencil tool, it might warp the pencil. So it's easiest to create a second layer so you're not drawing on that base. I like to use my peppermint tool for my sketching. So you're going to want to start out by drawing these guidelines on the arm. I do one for the shoulder, one for the elbow, one for the ditch of the arm. These are my circle lines to kind of just show me they're in different sizes, and then I'll draw ley lines kind of just showing me where those then match up to the different parts of the wrist and the shoulder. This just helps when I'm transferring it between 3D and 2D to actually keep a map of where everything needs to go. So now that we have our guidelines, we're going to go to our settings, our 3D, and then switch it to the 2D texture. This will show you the 2D layout of whatever you just drew on that 3D arm. You can see that you have your shoulder, the ditch, the elbow, armpit, and the wrist. And then this is this little seam which your design is going to have to connect in the end once you do your final sketch. And now you're going to turn it back to 3D and start doing your sketch. This is just going to lay out where everything needs to go. It's going to help you with flow a lot. This is the main reason that I use 3D models, is just so that I know that my final project is going to actually flow really well together. In this, I'm using a snake just to kind of show how easy it is to figure out where you want everything to go and match up. This is a good point to show you that you can also go to your canvas, your reference, and then change it to your 3D model, so that if you want to draw on just the 2D version of your sketch, you can also see it live on the 3D model while you're drawing. This helps with certain things. Typically, I don't use this as much as I should, but it's a really great tool that Procreate has. Now I'm going to switch back to the 3D model so that I can complete this seam. It's easiest to do this in the 3D, not the 2D. That way you can get everything to line up. Then you can switch back to your 2D and figure out where your seam is, which I'll show you later once we get the final sketch done. I'm just going over these edges of where my snake body is so that it's a lot more clean and easy to see now where this 2D and 3D model split to be able to wrap back around to the forearm. You can see it right about there, and I'm going to go in and on my 2D model add my split line, or at least where it cuts off all of my lines. That way you can see it kind of there. So go ahead and take this into a new file. That way when you're doing your actual sketch, it's not going to be super pixelated. You can make this file as large as you want to keep the quality. Lower your opacity so that you can add extra sketches on top, since this is just your base sketch of where you want everything to be composition-wise. This is where you're going to add all of your details and everything. This will be your final art piece in this file. Now, just for time's sake, I'm not going to be designing that snake just for this tutorial. I'll be using this piece that I've already done. So I went in there, I went and copied the canvas, and I'm going to go into my 3D model that I already have my sketch layer on. And then you're going to want to press Add, Paste Canvas, or Paste onto Canvas. And then lower your opacity, bring it over and arrange it and align it to your stencil. And after this, you should be able to switch and toggle it onto the 3D mode. And right here is where you're going to be able to see where that section that cuts off, where it tries to meet around the forearm, your split and your canvas. And this is also where you're going to add your little split line. I do it on the 3D mode so that when I switch it to 2D, I have both sides of where my image cuts off, and I need to copy and paste this part of it and move it to the other. I do this by using the selection tool, Freeform, to cut out the area of the drawing that is on the left side of my split line. You're going to want to make sure that you're in the right layer, by the way. I tend to try to do this when I'm still in my split line sketch layer. But here I'm just removing the rest of the canvas since the final drawing that I did, I used a bunch of different layers and I couldn't get rid of the white background and keep it as just a clear PNG image. But here's where we can start to toggle through 2D and 3D to figure out where we need to correct the lineup of this seam. You can see that I just need to move it over just a tiny bit. Since you'll be putting this on the person in separate stencils, for this, when I started the line work of this piece, I separately stenciled out the wizard, the knight, and the archer. That way it accounted for if my client was going to have a larger or smaller arm than this body model. Typically when I'm designing things on this, I still like to think about that and remember that this isn't the size that my client is.